Hi everybody, it's Diane from Tattered Edges Design. I'm making a masterboard today, and if you don't know what that is, it's just a big-ish background. You can paint it, you can collage it, you can do both, whatever, and then you cut it down to make whatever you want. Tags, ATCs, whatever. So I've never used watercolor paper as the substrate before. This is Canson. It's 140 pounds. I don't know where I got this. Probably Hobby Lobby, but I don't really know. So anyway, I thought I would use that because I wanted to use watercolor paint, and I also want to put a little collage stuff on it and then paint over it. How much collage stuff, I'm not sure. And I just literally grabbed the first, however many this is, 4, whatever, magazines that were on my stack. And I only have one here because I'm not sure this is going to, I'm sure it'll work, but if it's really what I'm looking for, so to speak. So I'm only going to make one. If it's great, I probably will go ahead and do a second one. And I'm not taking any yeah, I'm not, I am turning pages. I'm not just being totally random, but I'm not looking for anything really specific. And you might be saying, well, the watercolor paint isn't really going to cover that or go over that. You're right. I know that. But that's kind of part of what I want to try and see how it works. And I won't bother to glue it down on camera. That's, nobody needs that in their lives, right? This one might not work. Well, the paper is a little more matte. Yeah, it's heavy. That's a nice paper. I'm not going to use it for something this dumb. Here's just, a piece of a magazine that fell out of the magazine. We'll take that. And I don't intend to cover the whole thing. Did I already say that? And what am I going to do with the board, once it's done? I've got one idea, maybe a couple in mind, but I'm not sure, so I'm not going to say anything. And if you want to live real dangerously, you could probably go ahead and do this on poster board or a file folder or something. It doesn't really have to be watercolor paper if you're just trying to make a, grungy type background thing. It doesn't really matter. Maybe in a way that would even be better. It would get more, I don't know. I was going to say buckle, but this probably will warp a little bit. Anyway, depending on how much water I put on it. And depending too, I had thought, once all was said and done, maybe dabbing it with some coffee and staining the whole thing? I don't know. It is kind of fun to make these though, because you kind of, depending how you cut it up, you really don't know what you're going to get, so to speak. So, I don't know. It's fun. It's adventure crafting, right? So yes, it is 13th of February, and we have had snow and snow and snow and snow. At least though lately it is the light fluffy type, so that's not so bad. I'll give it that. And I don't have to use magazine on this either. I could use scrapbook paper, junk mail, wrapping paper. I don't know, any other suggestions out there? Probably. Alright, I was also thinking a couple more pieces here of maybe grabbing just a couple more, I mean, definite type things, like a couple flowers maybe. And if they get covered up with what I'm doing or whatever, so be it. Alright, maybe a couple more little pieces. Let's see. Alright, let me grab a couple seed catalogs that I didn't think to pull up before. Let's see. This one is all, yeah. Actually, this is a really pretty catalog. Okay, do you have roses? I have one rose bush that about died out, came back, wasn't so great, okay, about died out, came back, where it's I wish I had more. They're so pretty, but they're not cheap, and I don't know that much about them to take care of them. Not that I suppose I couldn't learn, but I don't know, these are kind of too big, I think. Alright, what about, what's this? Maybe this one? Yeah, these are a little smaller. Well, here's a pansy. And I'll stress my fussy cut because I don't know that I want, if it has dark around it, I may not want that. Would you do that? Yeah, I don't know. I just thought that would, if you know, some of that peeks through, be a little more interesting here and there. Ooh, strawberries. Do we need that for my glue book page? Actually, that one's kind of good. Maybe I'll take that. I won't do that right now. Honeyberries. I don't think I ever heard of that. Alright, we got out of flowers. Where'd they go here? Well, there's a portion of one. We might as well use it. Don't let it go to waste. Maybe this. Now, how about this one? Kind of small. Phoenix nasturtium, which I bought a couple of years ago and it didn't do so well. And I usually do have good luck with nasturtiums, so there. There's your nasturtium, little hint for the day. All right, well, what about this? What are these? Violas. I was going to say that, believe it or not. Alright, well, maybe like one more for over here. Pick something. How about this up here? Okay. Alright, like I said, I'm going to glue off camera. And I have a sneaking suspicion I'll probably come back tomorrow. It's getting late. So I will see you at some point. Okay, I'm here. It's all glued down. I did add just a couple things I wanted with a little gapping there. I've got my ancient watercolors here. I did get water in the tall can, so we're set. So like I said, I've done this where I do a watercolor background and then put stuff on. I've never put stuff on first. Let me trim this. Thought I hit them all. So we'll see. And if worse comes to worse, big deal. It's one sheet of paper. If second comes to worse, I could probably go over it with craft paint, and that I think would save it anyway. So, and I'm still not quite sure what I'm going to do, with the finished product once they're dry. Everything's done. So I have no idea what kind of colors I should be using. It's beating up on the magazine paper, which I kind of thought it might, but some is sticking. And you can do what you want too, if you want to get the paper wet first or not. I do both. Obviously, the wetter, the more your paint is going to spread when you put it down. But you could put your paint down and then water too. And if you keep putting a ton of paint down, you can make it muddy. That could happen. But if you're just doing a background thing, I don't know that matters that much. If you really, you can't ruin this. I mean, if you really absolutely hate it, then put a lot on your foreground and cover it up. I mean, big deal. So there, that's my opinion. And you see how this is like wet, here. It probably will dry, I assume, looking different than that. But we'll see. And it's very sunny here and very cold. It's like, I don't know, 4 degrees Fahrenheit. Although this is supposed to be the worst of it. It's from here, it's supposed to gradually go up. So that's okay. And don't do this over some priceless antique or something, because it could drip. That's right, Marilyn says that, doesn't she, in this 7-year itch. I hope it's not some priceless antique or something. Okay, who knows the comeback line for that? No, just early Sears Roebuck. Yeah, that would have made a great actress, huh? I can't get one word out. And this definitely is going to be lighter than a craft paint. And you could do all one color. You don't have to do what I'm doing. You don't even have to make one of these at all, right? We're not doing it at all, Diane, so keep your advice to yourself. A little bit of sun here. I blocked most of it out. Yeah, it is sunny, which is why it's so cold. Which probably doesn't sound like it makes sense, but it's there's not clouds holding anything down. Or so I think. Well, as you can see, the magazine paper is still very prominent, which is okay. Most masterboards kind of are, well, I shouldn't say, I was going to say are not like that, but I don't know. I have seen them where people use, you know, whatever, scrapbook paper or magazine images, and that's it. They don't paint at all or just sew it down or anything. So, yeah, do what you want. However, if you really want it as a background, I feel this is kind of much, kind of busy. My thought was to use it more kind of focal and maybe put like one focal image kind of deal on it. So if it's real busy, to me, it doesn't matter so much. And I was thinking of spattering. And as you can see too, different paints are different. This, whatever this brown is a tad more opaque. It's not a, oh, what's it called? Gouache. Oh, forgive me. The watercolors that are opaque. It's not that, but it's just a little heavier than the other ones. So you have to work with what you have. And as I've said before, I'm not doing this as like a tutorial. I'm just doing it. And turn the camera on so you can watch. Do you find, I like to watch these craft type videos while I'm maybe cross stitching or something like that. That is one downfall, I will say, for my love of silent movies. You obviously can't do that because you have to watch because there's no talking. So it's not something to do when you have to keep looking away. See, now that to me is very interesting. But keep in mind, it's going to get cut up, so... And if you plan to drip, keep a paper towel or something nearby so you can wipe up your surface there. Something down here. Maybe a blue to run into the purple. What about this? This is too boring. Well, a little green might be okay. That doesn't want to show up. Yeah, I've said this before. I don't know what's with this green I have. You know, in contrast to this brown, It's very translucent. It's very pale. It doesn't want to take too well. I don't know what that's all about. And I still have given a little thought to going over with coffee when this is dry. I was thinking maybe if I feel I want to do that, I will just do, a little area and see what I think. I think that would be smart. Ooh, Diane's doing something smart. Mark this day down in history. Which, yes, it's actually Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day out there. Alright, I think at this point I'm going to try some spatters, some blobs, that type of thing. So let's see. That's kind of pretty. What do you think? I said it's bright. I suppose when this is all dry, you could go over with a, if you wanted, a wash of gesso. And if you don't want your spatters to spread, wait till it's dry. Oh, is that too bold on there? Not now. Getting busier, isn't it? Actually, what even about a black? That's kind of interesting. Gives it a little more depth, I think. Now here's a thought. I could spatter with white gesso. What do we think about that thought? A little more interesting over here. Alright, well I have gesso right here. Let me get these up. I'll try just a little bit and see what we think. And as you can see, the black here now has really faded out. I might go over that when it's dry. It's kind of cool. See, I'm getting more like a line action there. That's because it's kind of the paint gesso is kind of thick, which I don't care. I think that's kind of cool. I'm going to have spatters to clean up when I'm done. That's fun. Vic, come on. Well, I think I'm kind of done. I will, I think when it's dry, hit it with a few black spatters. Maybe a few white if these really fade out. But okay. What do you think? Kind of fun, very colorful, very busy. Alright, well, I have to let this dry to do anything. So I will come back later. Okay, it's all dry. And this is just how we left it. I did nothing to it. Yeah, the black, kind of faded out. The white held up a little better. But I just decided, for a background thing, I wasn't going to be that fussy. Okay. My first thought was, no, I'm not going to put coffee over it. Because I don't know, it's not going to make it look muddy. I don't know, but I don't know. So I thought, well, okay, try it. So I have a very little bit of coffee here that I made. I have technically it's called a tea stain formula for cross stitch. And that's, if you watch my how I dye paper with coffee video, I give the recipe in there. But at any rate, it's 2 tablespoons of instant coffee to 2 cups of hot water. And you just mix it up. So I cut that way back and just did a little bit. And I'm wearing a glove because I don't want my hands to smell like coffee all day. And I've got a paper towel. And I just thought, see if this is going to do anything. Too much. I don't like it. At the moment, it's doing nothing. Yeah, it's not doing much. You know what it's doing? Can you see? It's taking off some of the paint. That's what it's doing. I hadn't thought of that. And I should have. Watercolor paint, right? Yeah, okay, it's not really doing anything, which is okay. Because I didn't think I really wanted it anyway. No. Very, very little. Okay. All right, now we know. All right, let me get rid of this stuff and I will come back. Okay, that dried relatively quickly, and I did take that coffee and I ran and coffee dyed about 8 or so notebook papers, so it didn't go to waste. So anyway, I'm going to cut these down, I think, to 3 inches by 3 inches. So I've got my trimmer here that I hope doesn't need a new blade because I haven't changed it for a while. And yeah, scrap paper is a little heavy. I mean, a trimmer like this can handle it fine, but it's heavy. It's like a cardstock kind of weight. Now, is that too small? I guess not. Is this exciting, watching somebody cut? But it's kind of fun to see how these come out, I think. Okay, last strip here. Okay, let me set this aside. So, now depending on how you do it, if you have text, don't have text, don't care, I mean, you could turn it any way you want, really. And I'm also going to take this opportunity to see if anything needs to get glued down. Sometimes when you trim, see, that's really narrow. So yeah, that needs a little glue. And depending on how you glue, maybe you don't need to worry about that. Use better glue, different glue, your Mod Podge, whatever. Okay, there. This one seems okay. This one. It's okay. This one. Oh, what's the corner coming up there? So what do you think? Are you liking the watercolor? I gotta say it's a different look for me. I'm used to using either gesso or like craft paint. So I wouldn't have an edge here. I'd really kind of use that to conceal an edge. But there's something, nothing wrong with this. It's kind of fun. It's kind of cool. So my big idea was to take this and put it on the cover of a little mini notebook, little mini journal, and then add either a word or, oh, that's coming up, or, a focal type image, but just like a image maybe too, not a collage thing, because it already is a collage thing. And have I made these little notebooks yet? No. Have I pulled little images or words or anything? No. But I just want to see what these were going to look like. So I have to pause and make notebooks, pull images. In what order, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. But there's those. And I think, since this mainly is about making a master board, I will probably just finish the rest of it off camera and then come back and show you the finished product, okay? But there's that. Okay, I'll see you in a little while. Well, here I am. I believe it was this video. I said it was Valentine's Day. Am I right? At any rate, it is now February 16th. Yes, it's taken me this long to finish these books. And I had my kind of usual craft time. These just took, well, I've got 12. But it took a long time. But here they are. I thought all the collages turned out pretty cool. And it can be a little challenging, when you have bold, what I would call bold color in the background, and you can see things and stuff. It is more challenging to work with it and find things that match and don't look like what is it, because now you see stuff in the background. And so anyway, I'll show you them. The covers are single scrapbook paper layer, but I thought it seemed a little flimsy to me. So this is part of what took so long. Can you see? I ripped up a grocery bag into little pieces, glued on little pieces, and then went over it with ink, which actually, that turned out pretty cool, and it gives it a more substantial feel there. So that is the covers. It's just a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. I stitched around every one of the collages prior to gluing down, and then I glued them down. And I did weight them overnight. Each book has 7 pages. There's 3, I think, plain, one of these old writing tablets, 1 coffee dyed notebook, 1 ledger, and then each book has a old book page that are different. This one happens to be a stamp album. But okay, there's that one. 1. This one, 2. The book page in this is part of a watercolor book. And some of you might be saying, well, there's text on there and stuff. What am I supposed to do with that? There is. And that's part of what makes these homemade and junk journal-y and that kind of thing, recycled, using those kind of pages. You can glue paper over them and then use it to write, or glue photos or images over and then don't worry about it. So that's that. The book page in this is stamp album again. So there's that one. this one. And a lot of them got words. I think there were a couple that did not, but most of them did. We'll see as we go. The book page here is an old coloring book. This one. That's part of the same watercolor book. And they happen to be blank on the back. This one. It's a stamp album in this. This one. This one has, I think it's wrapping paper, yes. Old wrapping paper from the 70s, I believe. This one. I believe too, this is the watercolor book again. I believe all the collage images are magazine. There was something there with, like, this was part of the original masterboard, which is magazine and that. So I didn't think, this is an old book page, child's book. I didn't think scrapbook paper would go with it so well. So I just used magazine images. This is a sewing book page in this one. And the watercolor book again. And lastly, and this one's book page is the watercolor book again. That is blank on the back. Alright, so these did wind up, in case you're interested. I think they're 3.5 by 3.5. Okay. So there, I think they turned out fun. They did take quite a lot of time. These are going to go in my shop. I'm not sure at this point if I will sell them individually or more likely pairs. Yeah, any of you Etsy sellers have any advice on that? When you sell little things, I always go the tracking route for shipping. I won't get into details now, but it's just safer for both buyer and seller to have a tracking number. So it would be around $4, not quite $4, probably to mail one of these. So who wants to really spend $4 to mail one of these? You know, if I charge $4 or so for it, so $8, I mean, I get that. So then do you sell them, you know, maybe for $2, I could still do the $4 shipping. It's probably what I'll do, but I'm not sure yet. But at any rate, they will go in my shop. They were fun. I do like the watercolor on here. What do you think? They're fun, they're different, they're colorful. They took a long time. So anyway, thanks for joining me through this, and I hope everyone has a nice day out there.